Hey everyone, Mariner here, and welcome to another episode of the Matchup Show on Net That Hall. We're going to dissect the numbers again for game week 21, try and figure out what went right and went wrong for 20. It's all thick and fast, so we have to double up as well this week. We're doing captaincy as well as the matchups. So yeah, as always, if you enjoy this, please hit the like button. Please subscribe if you don't already, and hit the bell for notifications as well. And as ever, who better to help me with this than my fellow shipmate Gabe at FPLlens on Twitter, and also this week a special guest, and that's Surya from All About FPL. How are you doing, guys?
I'm doing good, Madno. Thanks for having me here, and it's pretty nice to catch up with you both for the very first time together. Yeah, pretty excited. Yeah.
Gabe, how are you?
Also doing well. Got my little tank of jet fuel here. Good to see Surya face to face for the first time.
Yeah.
All about
FPL. Yeah.
So we've got Chennai, LA, and Singapore all on at the same time. Well,
Yes.
So there we go. So it really is a truly global show.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll just run through again as usual for the people who perhaps joining us for the first time, because we're actually up to 157 subscribers in 3 shows, so we're doing really well. So guys, I cannot thank you enough for showing the support and sending so many good wishes to us. It really is appreciated. But for those who are joining us, we're just going to have a quick look at our own teams. We're going to do it slightly different this week because they're on the clock. We've got 2 minutes to talk about our teams because it goes on too long on so many shows. So I talk too much, so I need a timer. So that's what we're going to do. They're then going to have a look at the fixture difficulties, the usual bits and bobs, Soucek Watch, a focus on attacking defenders, life without Vardy, life without KDB, and at the end we're going to do the captaincy, just a little bit less than we'd normally do, and then take your questions hopefully as well. We're hoping to wrap up at about an hour and 15, but look, we'll see how we go. It depends how many questions come in at the end of the day. So let's start then. Gabe, I'll just put your team on the screen. Let's go. Tell us about your team.
Here we go. I mean, I think there's only one place to start, and it's 7:03 in the morning right here, and everyone loves a piece of toast with a whole heaping serving of jam on it. So we can see Bai as my first sub, and Soucek is in there. So I embarrassingly sat Soucek after we touted him on the show last week, and instead of going through all the players, I just want to run through that thinking, because I think it's common kind of thought. It's a common train of thought for many managers where they put Soucek on first bench. So I was thinking, headers are a little bit more difficult to predict, even though we've done a great job of it recently. And I just felt like Cresswell's assist potential was a little bit higher than Soucek's goal potential. So I played Cresswell ahead of Soucek. I also played Bai. I thought he would start against Sheffield United. I'm really glad he didn't, because then I got the 15 points in off the bench. So those 15 points from Soucek, as my time runs out here, those jammy points were responsible for 150K increase in OR. And I have to get it out there because I'm like unburdening myself. I'm living with this guilt because I feel a little bit bad about this one.
Don't be guilty. Don't be guilty. I mean, I have to say, I did give you a shout and say, look, you jammy devil. I can see him coming off the bench for you. Yeah. but just very quick. 66 points. 66 points, yeah? 399 game week rank, 399k game week rank, 512 overall. Bruno failed like 2.7 million, and Cancelo vice captain like me.
Yeah, I wanted him captain, but my time's up.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the first one. So this is whistle stop tour. So let's have a look now at you, Surya. And I think you've got a bit of an excuse about your team. I'll let you explain it.
Yeah, so probably I missed the deadline. I was pretty unwell. So the potential transfer was De Bruyne to Gundogan. So I missed out on 15 points there. But then I would have benched Rafinha. So probably 13 and 15, just 2 points loss over there. So I'm not complaining much. And probably I published the first matchups blog last week, and I was blown up by Soucek's what Gabe did. So I was pretty sure he's going to start. So I did that, and I got 15 points from there. Basically, other than that, the rest of the team is basically shit. Killen got me 6 points. Killen got me 6 points, and yeah, so 50 points overall. And I think I'm somewhere launching around the 300k rank as of now. But yeah, a green arrow for doing nothing. So I'll probably take it and run away. So I think I'm done in a minute. So I can't talk about my team more than this. So Gabe, if you want to pick some time off mine, you could very well go and use it. Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna bring a couple of things up. I mean, Kilman, I take it, was sat on your bench.
Yeah. And luckily it was a 0-0 and he started and I got 6 points off of that. So 50 points, I'm not complaining for after I didn't set my team at all. So yeah, green arrow, but Bruno, again, a disappointment. And yeah, pretty much nothing.
Well, we've got a clean sweep. We've got a clean sweep of Bruno failures on this chat, on this show. Right? Anyway, so
yes.
I've got a feeling we've probably got a clean sweep of Bruno failures in the comments as well. I mean, just very quickly, 341k, 1.6 mil game week rank without changing a thing. It's not all bad.
Yeah, it's not all bad. So I'm totally agreeing with the fact. But hopefully, game week 21 is pretty kind to me. Yeah. Yes, man. Yep.
Cool. Right, and over to me then, just to finish this little section off. So there's me, 70 minus 4, 66. Cancelo in, Trent out. First day, masterstroke. Second day, well, yeah, it was gonna happen. It happened last year as well. I took him out last year, the week after. It's the second time in 2 years I've done it now. Patience is a virtue, guys. Gundogan in, KDB out. That's a +10 after the hit. Soucek, 2 returns. You know, the GOAT. I love him. Grealish, 1 return. Antonio, again, looks good. Bruno, yuck. Salah, not scored since the 19th of December in the league. My goodness. He was unlucky, I think. Very unlucky as it happens, I think, yesterday. So I think we've got to be a little bit careful that we don't think too much about this. I didn't start my timer. Just very quickly, because I'm flying through this anyway.
Little favoritism there, Mariner.
Yeah,
favoritism,
I know. Alan, Robbo blanking. I just glanced out the corner of my eye and I thought, I'm still on 2 minutes. And Martinez blanking. And Villa conceding 3 against Burnley. You know, there's some very strange results, and I'm going to own up. For anyone who was watching the Expectations show, I actually predicted that Manchester United would get a clean sheet, and I told people to double up on them, but then forgot the fact that they decided to turn up like my old Sunday League football team and defend like that. So, c'est la vie. But no, green arrow, I've recovered all my losses from game week 19, and I'm sitting at 5.7k. So I'm really, really happy where I'm sat. I've just got to try and just consolidate really now.
Yeah,
it's good to see you bounce back, Mariner, after 19, bouncing back really nicely here and keeping staying inside the 10k. Super impressive.
Yeah, I'm pleased with that, because I have to say I was a bit worried it was going to be going the other way, and I did actually do a wildcard draft. I did consider it. I was thinking, do I need to freshen up? Then I thought, no, I'm going to just be careful and just take hits, but not go crazy. You know,
is the pressure when you're there, like when you're at that rank so early? Did you feel that the load a little bit when say you have a dip one game week and you're like, oh man, do I hit the wall?
No, I work in oil trading, mate. That's a lot more pressure. No, it's a bit of fun. I mean, to be honest, people do ask me that, and I don't really. I just try to just. It doesn't just play it wherever you are. It's the same principle. Just keep playing, whether you're at 2 million or 10,000. It doesn't matter. Just keep playing it. So that's that. So that's the teams. And we're in 10 minutes, so that was exactly to plan to get through that section. So, right, what I'm going to do now, like I always do, is I'm just going to go through from the stats, what I picked out, and there's just some notable performances, really. And then what I'll do, guys, is I'll just bring you in and just give us the eye test and anything else that you spotted. So, big chances. Mane topped it with 3. Soucek, Maupay, Antonio, Watkins, and Lacazette with 2 big chances each. Shots in the box. Mane, 7, tops it. Traore, 4. Antonio, 4. Watkins, 4. Sterling, 4. Lascelles, 4. We're all 4 into row Z of the Gallagate end or wherever it was. I didn't see the game, guys. Maybe you can explain whether that's a statistical anomaly or not. XG, Mane top again, 1.56. Watkins, 1.27. Soucek, 1.11. Nice numbers, yeah? Maupay, Laka, 0.93. Antonio, 0.83. And XA as Granit Xhaka, 0.81. Mane again, clearly the star of the week, 0.63. Antonio 0.59 popping up here, there, and everywhere. And then we come to the Hall of Shame. I like that. That was a good chat. This Rodrigo 0 XG 0. Bamford 0.02 XG.
not a big difference.
Pogba 0.01. Salah 0.05 XG.
That disparity, Salah Mane in that game was really striking. You could see it.
Big swing.
It's crazy. I was going to say, Gabe, what was your takeaways from the week?
I think that's the big one. I guess recency bias. It's freshest in my head, right? The Liverpool performance, and while we can argue about whether Salah's goal should have stood or not, even when he took that goal. It was an awkward first touch. You can see that he's thinking a million thoughts between the moment the ball is passed, the moment he receives it, and then after he takes that first touch. While Mane is playing more naturally with more flow, trusting freely. Exactly, Surya. Yeah. Trusting his instincts, going where he knows he needs to go. Takes his first touch. He knows what he's going to do. Before he takes his first touch, Mane knows what he's going to do in his second touch. Salah does not right now, and that's a confidence thing. But like they say, what do they say? Form is temporary, class is permanent. If we do believe in Salah's class, we know that'll turn around. And that's kind of why he's still in all of our teams. Well, for some of us. Exactly. For others, like Surya, he just got the whole neighborhood's on fire, so you got to do other things. But
well, he's still in mine. I have no intention really still of getting rid of him. But I have to say, again, I struggle with the time to watch the games, obviously, because they're in the middle of the night for me. And I looked at that, and I just looked at the numbers. Then I had to go and see what Mane had been doing, actually, because it was, like I say, the numbers looked fantastic. Surya, what about you? What did you spot anything of interest this week?
Yeah, one thing was I was pretty confident about Salah because he hit a brace against United in the FA Cup. So I thought his form is coming back. He should be looking stronger, and maybe that this was the game that he would bounce back. But like Gabriel said, it is once again how it was in the Premier League for the last 1 month. He looked very non-trustworthy in terms of his finishing. He was very shaky. The touch was heavy, and when you look at the other side, Mane was completely inconfident, completely in full flow. So I think maybe a straight swap from Salah to Mane, if the transfer permits, could also be a very good option, because I see Salah to take a couple of more weeks to get back into his old groove. But again, there's recency bias that Salah's a star FPL player, and we know he'll come good, but we don't know when he'll come good, and we can't keep holding him because it's already been 5-6 game weeks. So one big learning for me is that way. And Everton to impress me pretty much, because of course there isn't no numbers to prove Digne that much. Gabriel pointed it out in the Matchups blog and thread as well, but they should improve with James, Richarlison, DCL back together, and Digne playing further up, and Pickford not being in the 11 is another advantage. And I think Gabriel is looking to captain captain Digne. So I think that's another very important notable performance for me.
There might be a mass rush. There might be a might be a mass rush to transfer Dean in because of Pickford being benched. Perhaps who knows? Who knows? I think that's fair enough. I mean, what we're going to do as well, obviously, is City and Leicester both. Obviously, they've got some changes around. A lot of people brought Gundogan in. I did too. Cancelo, clearly did really well. Leicester, on the other hand, losing Vardy. How has that affected them? So we're just going to have a very quick look at Man City and Leicester without the key players. And so first of all, I'll put some heat maps up, and Lens, I'll come to you in a second and just let you go through those. But I'll just give the numbers again as usual. XG for the game: Sterling 0.63, Gundogan 0.59, Cancelo 0.31, XA Mahrez 0.55, Sterling 0.27, Cancelo 0.16. Shots in the box: Sterling 4, Mahrez 2, Foden 2. I mean, clearly, Cancelo struck me as being involved in so much, and Gundogan, to me, looks in the form of his life. But I'd just like to know what. So I'll come to you first, Gabe. On the heat maps, and then Surya as well.
Yeah.
So I think I'll start with kind of with Cancelo, and just kind of look at where he's been and look kind of like historically, like this season, what's happened with KDB. So initially, at the beginning of the season, KDB would start in central midfield, but he would go pretty far wide and combine a lot with Mahrez. That wasn't working. That was what that was doing, was that was creating a big gap in midfield where teams could kind of play through quite freely, and it would also isolate KDB, so he couldn't combine them with other players. So what they did was they moved Gundogan into that left area that you see there against West Brom. You see he's kind of playing the left side of central midfield, and then KDB moved to the right side of central midfield, having that double presence, almost like a double 10 rather than the double 6 pivot. That change in kind of, it's not a change in formation, but it's a change in movement once the ball is in play, and movement when they're in possession of the ball. So once KDB kind of moved to the right and then Gundogan moved to the left, they could both kind of move the ball quicker across the top of the box because there were kind of two high pivots in that case. And KDB goes down, and we see Cancelo. Whereas Cancelo, if we look at the heat map against Chelsea, right? Look how wide Cancelo is in that heat map, right? That whole outside the flank, the right flank, has been vacated by Cancelo. We see him playing. If we look at the West Brom game, now he's playing more centrally in that KDB role. KDB has been split in half, and half of KDB is Gundogan, and the other half is Cancelo. And they're very similar price. They do very similar things. Yeah, it's incredible how successful it is. It's really working for them. So what's happening is Bernardo Silva, who's starting in the central midfield position where KDB normally starts, now when the ball gets rolling, he moves wide, and he's combining on the flank while Cancelo comes inside. So it's just kind of like a starting position, and then they almost switch positions there. So that's what these heat maps are telling me, and it's working for City, and it's why they're having so much success right now.
Yeah, it's really very noticeable. I love the analogy of splitting KDB in half. I'm not sure Manchester City fans would be keen if we split him in half, though. But no, I can see what you're trying to say. Actually, it's very interesting. Surya, anything you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, I think that was quite comprehensive. But one thing that I would like to add is that the level of predictability is gone from City's attack from ever since this minor tweak has happened. So it's not just KDB trying his luck from outside the box anymore. It's the Gundogan coming in, it's Cancelo coming in, that's Sterling, that's always there. And there is variety in the City attack, the way they were a couple of seasons back when they were battering teams out 5-0, 4-0, week in, week out. That amount of predictability that was there, which made them struggle at the beginning of the season, wherein they were just scoring a 1 goal, 2 goals, is even getting draws, is kind of gone now. And in fact, I would stick my head out and say they are doing well without KDB. Of course, there will be a lot of reception from City fans, but the fact is that the role of KDB has reduced. They were over dependent on him, just like how United are pretty dependent on Bruno Fernandes. They start becoming over reliant on KDB, and that's slowly starting to come down. And as a team, they are putting up very good performances, and we've been getting a lot of 5 million FPL assets. So it's win-win for all of us. So yeah, so that's my takeaway. Yep.
Yeah, we'll come on to this price a little bit later. I think Gabe's got quite a strong opinion about this price. So we'll bring that up a little bit later on. I think actually, Gabe, we'll keep it for the captaincy. All right, we'll keep it for the captaincy.
Yes.
We'll keep everybody's bated breath. We'll keep everyone bated breath for that. Now, one thing obviously I see about this is City have an embarrassment of riches, right? So if they lose one player, they do have people who can replace them. But can Leicester, guys? The loss of Vardy, clearly will has had Rodgers to have a significant rethink about what's going on. And I'm just actually looking for a couple of quotes which I just picked up earlier. If you miss someone of Jamie Vardy's ability, then it's going to be hard. We thought Perez played all right, and he's got Iniacho. We have to find a way. Is the way Harvey Barnes and James Maddison? Sorry, I come to you first. What's your view on Barnes and Maddison? There's been an awful lot of discussion about these two this week, and I'd really like to know your feeling on how they're doing with respect to playing without Jamie Vardy.
Yeah, so personally, when you compare numbers, it's always Barnes above Maddison, and Barnes has been a very good option. Whenever you pick him out for stats, he always stands out. But one thing is that he's very young and he's pretty inconsistent in terms of finishing. That has always been a concern. But then the occasion now is that he has to rise up to the occasion and fill in a big shoe. That's the void left by Jamie Vardy. So, and I think the kid is being very good at that part, and he's being putting in respectable performances here and there. And for me, it has always been Barnes over Maddison, because Maddison is someone who thrives even more with the presence of Vardy, because Vardy is someone who converts small chances, and Maddison often thrives in putting in small chances compared to bigger ones. So and he's sort of a mid pick. So I think when you compare Maddison and Barnes, I would definitely go Barnes. And Barnes is always going to improve. He's an ever improving young kid. He's basically, I compare Barnes with Dwight McNeil as well from Burnley. Very similar players, very of the same age, same potential. And yeah, of course, the void left by Vardy is very tough to fill. It's not like City, wherein they have rich assets to compensate the loss of one. Aguero's basically missed the whole season, and City haven't even missed him that much. In fact, he's their record goal scorer for a reason. Yeah, so but both of them have put in commendable performances, but for me, Barnes stand out. Yeah, I think he will do a good job in filling in the absence of Jamie Vardy in my option.
Interesting enough, I'm just listening to what you were saying, and I'm just looking at the XG and XA. XG for the game at the weekend of Maddison 0.24, Barnes 0.21, Perez and Tielemans 0.17, and XA Barnes 0.26. So Barnes was above Maddison for XA.
Yeah.
Maddison 0.16. That pretty much says what you're saying. The key passes and everything, it all looks to be, Barnes seems to be that player who might be playing that key ball.
Correct.
Me at the moment. But that said, Gabe, you spotted something quite interesting on the heat maps, didn't you?
Yeah, so I'm looking at the heat maps, and I understand. I mean, I need to get this out of the way. I have a bias against Harvey Barnes. So I'm just going to throw that out there. When I have
my Richarlison one,
very similar, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So just in mind, I'm looking for things to tout Madden over Barnes, just because that's what's in my head. So when I'm looking like that, what I'm seeing is kind of the other yellows inside the box for Madison. And those are very interesting to me. Those, and then obviously the corners, the set pieces that Madison has over Barnes. The way I see it is Madison is much more involved in the actual play of the game. And actually, I should have gone. I'll go maybe a little bit later to Understat. Understat has this great stat called XG buildup or XG chain. The buildup and the chain, like. Yeah, the XG chain is like what the XG of the possession is, like when the player is involved in progressing the ball forward. And that's one of the stats that I like about Madison. And then I see kind of the darker areas in the box. His XG isn't there yet because that's never been his role. It's never been his role to get in the box and take shots. So that might be something that he's developing. While Barnes, that has been his role. And I gotta say he's developing quite slowly because his finishing is just I think it is improving a little bit, but at this point it's been the same story with Harvey Barnes for a couple of years now, in that he gets in great spaces, he's fast, he's quick, he's dynamic, and then he bungles the finish. And that's something as an FPL manager that I just it drives me up the walls. I can't take that. So I think there are some things to say about Madison. Some points to make for Madison here.
I mean, it's an interesting one. I mean, to be honest, we'll come back to these two, I think, later on as well. So, because I think, as I say, there's been quite a bit of debate on them. My perspective is, I think Barnes, if you look at Barnes' numbers now compared to earlier in the season, I'll come on to those later, they have significantly changed. I think that might be a very important point to make to everybody. So, okay, so that's this little bit of the show out of the way. So, as always, what we do is we look at the fixture difficulties, and again, this is based on shots in the box conceded and taken, XG and XGC. Big chances against, and again, this is for the attackers. So read down for the attacking team, read across for the defensive option, and I've highlighted the boxes. And again, it's polarizing, but attacking output seems to be falling. Is something that I'm noticing, but we still have quite a bit of polarization there. I mean, clearly, Man United, Man City still look pretty good, but if we looked at XG over the last 3 game weeks, but per 90 minutes, Man City 2.44 per 90 minutes, West Ham 2.03. The Antonio factor, I think, is starting to show it to rear its head. Perhaps, and Thomas Soucek, of course. Let's not forget him. And Villa 2 XG every 90. Spurs, Arsenal, Chelsea 6th, 7th, and 10th for XG. They're really sort of like sitting in the middle at the moment, and worse, right down at the bottom, Palace 0.46, Leeds 0.5, Newcastle 0.64, and here's the shock, which I think could put a few nerves up people. Everton 0.66, 4th worst, and look how red Everton are on that. Yeah. That does not look good for matchups. I know. Look, let's face it. If they're going to put it right, they're going to put it right this week, right?
Hopefully.
But yeah, I mean, look, again, it's telling me that the teams to be looking at, Arsenal, Villa, Man City, Man United, Spurs to a certain extent, but we don't know what's going to happen now. We don't know how long Kane's going to be out. We don't know if Kane is going to be out at this moment in time, because Mourinho never said he was. So it could be Son Mark II, who knows, and West Ham. So that's the attacking side of things. On the defensive side of things, defenses are turning greener. And I think now we genuinely are looking at 4, possibly even 5
at the back.
Good defenders. We're looking at moving our money potentially into defence. And in fact, one of our friends who was on the opening show, Shom, Bagan Boy, at Bagan Boy on Twitter, I had a little bit of an exchange with him earlier, and he said he would like to go 6 or 7 defenders right now. And then he castigated me for selling TAA, by the way, as well, which was thanks a lot for that, John. But if we look at defence, best at Manchester City again, expected goals conceded. Best Man City 0.38. Next best Arsenal 0.64. Streets apart. Manchester City are streets better than everybody else. West Ham 0.65. The Dawson and Ogbonna show, I think, is starting to pay dividends. I think, let's face it, Moyes is a bit stingy at the best of times, isn't he? And I think he's just got a nice little partnership going there. And worse, 1, 2, 3, Fulham, Burnley, Newcastle. This is in the last 3. And again, if I just pulled some out the middle, defensive-wise, Villa 7th worst, clearly affected by this Burnley game, I think. Spurs 8th worst. And even Chelsea and Man U are a little bit off the boil at the moment, but hardly surprising after that debacle against Sheffield United, right?
Yeah, correct.
And again, because this is short-term numbers, it is looking at that. It will spot these things. But again, you're looking at Arsenal, Leicester, Liverpool, City, anybody against anybody, quite frankly. Now, you'd back them to clean against anybody. Leicester and Liverpool, you'd probably back them to clean against most. Arsenal, you'd back them to clean against most at this moment. West Ham, possibly more than still. I think a West Ham defender, I don't think is a bad option at all. Even with the fixtures being slightly on the tough side now, there's some relatively nice fixtures coming up for West Ham in a few weeks' time. And the upcoming fixtures, and this is the last thing I'll show you on the fixture difficulties before we come on to Soucek Watch. Again, I've highlighted who I think are best for where we should be looking. Man City, clearly, obviously. Man United, and Villa look for me from the point of view of attack. Notable mentions: West Ham 23 game week 23 onwards. Leicester for the next 2 game weeks look very good. And the caveat suggests a closer matchup for Leicester against Leeds. But I think that's probably because Leeds have just played West Brom, Newcastle, and Brighton. So that's probably, I think that's where you've just got to get the stats and throw them away, right? Because I can't see, I just can't see how that could be completely right. Defensive wise, Man City, Man United, and Leicester and West Ham look good. And if you looked at it from an average perspective, and this is where we're going to come to what we're going to talk later, because we're talking about attack and defense, and this is where we're going to come about our attacking defensive options. Manchester City, Manchester United, West Ham, and Leicester look like the ones where you may get that elusive double return from my side of things. And obviously things have changed because now there is only one possible double fixture as far as I can see between now and game week 26, and that's probably Everton, I think, in game week 24. So I think there was chances of Leeds and Southampton. I can't quite remember who could possibly have had double, but that's not going to happen now. So we've got pretty much a standard FPL run now towards game week 26. Guys, anything you want to comment on? Anything you've just seen there?
There's something I'm noticing for game week 21 is, putting West Brom's attack matchup aside, because we're not going to obviously waste time on that. But really, only 2 really good fixtures for attack this weekend, according to the FDR, which really limits our options, doesn't it? Especially since there are so many premium assets that are kind of out of the game. And I'm wondering, with Salah blanking since December 19th, with Kane out, and with KDB out, with Vardy out, I wonder if this is kind of responsible for the shift in Green towards a defensive, the defense. There are a lot of kind of like premium heavy hitters that are out, and so I wonder if that's part of it. But
it could well be. I mean, look, and let's face it. I mean, we could have done a section on forwards, couldn't we? Replacing the likes of Kane and things. Maybe that's next week. Maybe that's for next week, perhaps. But I mean, looking at it there, I mean, you're right. I mean, there are no real. And to be honest, that's what I was thinking just without looking at this, because I was thinking, I could bring DCL in, but then I looked at the fixture and I thought, oh my God, look at that, it's horrible. You know.
Yeah. So one thing on that, since if you look at like game week 21, the attack side, there's a lot of red and they're very limited options. Really, two options: Grealish or someone from City. And then on the right side, the defense, there are more options.
Yeah, definitely.
So in the FDR, is the FDR telling us to captain a defender? We don't need to answer that right now, but I'll just plant that seed.
It's going to make me break my golden rule of the season, and I've gone 20 weeks without breaking that rule if I did that. So that's going to be a really difficult suggestion for me, but very interesting. I think that's, again, it just shows that I think the next topic that after Soucek Watch that we're going to come to is going to be, I think, really important, actually. I think it's a really good section that we're looking at with respect to these defenders today. But we're going to look for Soucek Watch now, and, we have to give it to the potato salad loving goat. Like, you've got to love this. I did steal it off Twitter. I think it might have been off Showman, off Twitter. But I said to him, I said, I'm stealing this. I've got to have this. Picture.
I think that used to say Lundstrom.
Did it?
Yeah.
but they sacrificed that goat and.
Well, as I said, Soucek Watch. So let's have a quick look at him. Obviously, we went for Soucek Watch last week, didn't we? And he returned, and he got a header. Finally. I mean, he could hardly miss. I think even I could have scored that one, to be fair. But no, he got in the right place, didn't he? So the moral of the story is this section can keep its name for now. I don't know. It might be Consa Watch or Mings Watch or something like that going forward. Who knows? Let's have a look. So if we look at the headed fixture difficulties. This is, as you say, Gabe, this is much more complicated, and really it's a bit of fun. But at the same time, and it's always good to try and challenge ourselves to try and predict something and just see whether matchups really do work. So the best matchups of interest this week, as far as I can see, Manchester United against Arsenal, Wolves against Palace, and Villa against Southampton. Now, could this be 2-2 for Slabhead? Possibly. Could it be another Willy Bolly masterclass? Who knows? Or could it be time for Consa Watch or Mings Watch, as I mentioned earlier? Now, I wrote this earlier, and I've just seen the information from Hasenhüttl. I think there are a number of players actually coming back, but whether they start or not remains to be seen. But there is still no Vestergaard. Romeo would be a very, very strong defense. He'd be a good defensive asset from the point of view of defending headers. He may play, but he may be just a bit part sort of responsibility this week. Bertrand's back. My choice this week, I'm going to go with Tyrone Mings. That's my tip for a header this week, based on the FDR and the fact that Southampton they're not doing very well defensively stats wise at the moment. They've got a few problems, and also again they've got issues in fullbacks, which means I think there might be a lot of crosses might be coming in. So I think that's something else we've got to consider. Gabe, what about you? Who do you fancy this week?
There's a question in the chat from Tavindra Raj, and I don't know, he's kind of turning my eye a little bit. He says, with Fabinho and Matip out, will Soucek be a player to start with Antonio? Loves playing Liverpool. So, do we go back to the well? That's kind of the big question for me.
Oh, God.
and I'm torn. I have to be honest. I'm torn because I sold Soucek.
No.
I might sell him. I am actually looking at maybe bringing Sterling in for him because I've got the cash.
Cash, yeah.
we have the cash. Right now would be a great time for Messi to come into the game because we all have cash. Like everybody buys Messi.
I mean, living in Singapore, I've never had so much money. Are you so? Come on then, Gabe. Nail your two.
I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for Antonio. I'm going to go for Antonio to score a header against Liverpool.
Fair enough. Yeah. Come on then, Surya.
Yeah, so I fancy Maguire. I fancy Maguire scoring another header. So I think it's very close against Burnley where he got a goal ruled out, and I fancied him to score a header against Liverpool, and that didn't happen. So I think I fancy Maguire this week once again. Yeah, but the clean sheet potential is totally not there. So I wouldn't advise people transferring him in, but I do fancy him scoring a header. Yes.
Well, I'm going to be playing Antonio for sure, and I've got to decide whether I sell Soucek or play Soucek. But the thought of playing 2 West Ham players against, or even I have 3, the thought of playing all 3 against Liverpool just doesn't ring.
Yes.
It just doesn't seem right, does it? Okay, so anyway, let's see how we do next week. I'll make a note of those, and we'll come back to those next week, and see whether we're right or not. We're doing all right for a start, so let's carry on. So, right, okay, so we're 40 minutes in. I think we're just about doing right for time. So now it's a time for the feature of the week. The focus on the attacking defensive options. I couldn't believe it's not a great way of putting it. I was trying to find a better way of saying this, but let's say we're looking for that elusive double or even treble return. And remember, some of these players, you could argue, start on 6 points at the moment. And I think that's the way we probably have to get our mindset on this type of stuff. It's not something that I enjoy doing because I always find if I am nervous about anything, it's watching clean sheets evaporate, if I'm honest with you. I much prefer looking for goals and assists. But yeah, let's dive into it and see who we've shortlisted, and we'll go from there. So, first of all, these are not all the heat maps, by the way, but we've shortlisted a number of players. So we put Tierney, Target, Chilwell, Dean, Justin. We've had to leave Robbo and TAA on, I suppose, given that they are very expensive, but maybe whether we need them or not. We're not actually looking at them, but we're leaving them in there. Cancelo. I've left off Diaz and Stones because I don't think really that's what we routinely expect for them. Shaw and Reguilon's there, but of course he's injured now, so we can take him off the list. So given this fixture difficulty and that looks like the fact that defence is going more and more green, as we've been saying. You've already done an article on your matchups, actually, quite a bit, didn't it, Gabe, on the allaboutfpl.com website? Mm-hmm. And we've already seen the fixtures are looking pretty good for the likes of City, United and Leicester. Do you want to take us through your thinking, Gabe, as to this? And I think you've got some interesting views on Shaw and Justin, but I think let's start with Chilwell and Dean. I think because we've spoken about Cancelo already. Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with Chilwell, but before I do, just to catch that blog post, go to allaboutfpl.com. I have to be honest, I had never really gone through that website before I started posting, and then once I did, my mind was blown. There are so many tools and resources. It's like the democratized fantasy football scout. Open for everybody. Bring democracy to FPL. I love it. Surya does a great job there. So, let's start with Chilwell. Thomas Tuchel comes in. Great guy, vegan, vegan. That's why he looks so good, so vibrant, right? And he changed the system. He comes in, he goes three at the back. There have been talks kind of all season for Chelsea to go three at the back with their strong so the center backs that they have. All of them can play, and then they play with wing backs anyway. So you might as well give them more freedom to do that. Obviously, Frank Lampard was never comfortable with that situation, but Tuchel is more of a tinkerer. And you'll see that the thing with Tuchel is he will change formations within the game. So he could start with three at the back, and then the next thing you know, it's the 25th minute, and there's four at the back. So he's quite a dynamic manager in that way. But if we look at when they play three at the back, if we look at Chilwell's positioning here, this is his touch heat map, and what really stands out in his touch heat map is that there are hardly any touches in his own half.
In his own half, yeah.
And that's the big one for me. So Chilwell's been relieved to a certain extent of his defensive responsibilities. So he's free to just, fly up the wing, cut inside, and launch awful shots over the bar as much as he wants, right? Like he did. And the reason I bring that shot up is because our friend Anand, who's actually in the chat right now listening, he brought up a good point in a we have this WhatsApp chat, and he said that and I've heard some people in some podcasts scoff at this idea, but Alonso has been outcast all season. Apparently, he said some things or did some things or said some things that against Lampard, so he was kind of outcast from the team. But now he finds himself on the bench. On the bench in a system in a team that's switched systems to three at the back, so he'd be further up the field. Look, Alonso. The criticism on Alonso is he can't defend. Well, look at Chilwell's heat map. He's not. He has to defend, which is a perfect situation for Alonso. So Anand brought up the idea that Alonso could be getting a start.
Yeah.
Especially if Chilwell can't do it. And from an attacking perspective, if his shot isn't quite right, and I think he can. I think Chilwell can. So if Alonso gets a shot, I expect that there could be a rotation, and that's kind of the downside to Chilwell here.
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I did see that on Twitter, and I did think, again, there was a falling out, wasn't there? And I mean, clearly, he was put out to pasture with Lampard, and yeah, Alonso is that type of player who, like you say, he doesn't really have a defensive brain on him, does he? He's an attacker, so he would fit very well into that heat map. In fact, you could just change the name, quite frankly, couldn't you?
Pretty much.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I think if you would have changed that name, I think Chelsea would have won that game. Because Chilwell just had a bad game. He had a bad game. He's had a great season. I've never been a Chilwell fan until this season, where I think he's really shown what his capabilities are. But he had a poor game, and not good to have a poor game the first day of the first game of the new manager.
And sorry, I'll come to you first on Digne. What's your view on Luca Digne going forwards?
I did pull up some numbers to see his crossing was there, and it isn't that great, to be honest. There's better crosses in the game with the last two game weeks since he's returned from injury. But then his overall success rate in terms of crossing has always been very good compared to the likes of Robertson and Tah, who've been consistent in terms of crossing all season, in spite of the fact that he's played just 10 out of the 20 games. So he's played just half of the season, and he's played out of position. So the moment someone says out of position, people try to jump on him. So that's one thing there. But for me, more than Digne playing out of position, it's the fact that DCL, James, and Richarlison are back together, are playing together. So that's something, the chances and the crosses that Digne could create could be converted easily by one of these three guys, pretty easily. So I think even I'm looking at Digne, but I'm not that confident like Gabriel to captain him. But but I'm looking at bringing in Digne as well for my team. Yeah, so very good pick for this particular game week at least. Yes.
I mean, certainly Newcastle do concede a lot of headed chances. If anybody's going to get that header, it's going to be DCL. And if anybody's going to produce that ball in, it's going to be Digne or perhaps James. And the other thing, of course, which might get wet people's lips a little bit, is that if Pickford doesn't start, because quite frankly, he's just waiting to wipe your clean sheet out, isn't he? Gabe, I mean, I'm going to say this to the public. They're all listening very intently again, as usual. You mentioned about captaining Dean this afternoon to me.
You know, if I learned my lesson from last week and then writing the matchups article, is that defenders actually do have an upside, and if all the pieces can kind of come together, then the upside of a defender could actually be more secure than the upside of an attacking player, because sometimes you don't know where the goals are going to come from. And like we said, like last week, we were pretty sure that the defenders for Man City were starting on 6 points. And so that's, imagine being assured of an attacker starting with a goal. Everybody would captain that attacker, right? So I think we can, if we're treating the players, kind of giving them equal treatment, I think we have to start seeing the upside in the defenders to add to the Dean case. And this is it's in the matchups thread. This is probably the most popular singular tweet of that thread. People were saying that this one tweet has people taking hits left and right, which I kind of feel bad about. But it's so Everton face Newcastle, who conceded the 19th or who are 19th for crosses conceded from the right side. They've conceded 219 crosses, the second most. Dean is just going to live there. He's just going to camp out and just feed his friends.
That's a -8 then. I'm in. You sold it.
Well, that's just one stat. The next stat, they are 18th for chances conceded from the right and 74. So they concede crosses from the right, they concede chances from the right, and they've conceded the most chances from the center of the field. So that right side of the field to the center of the field. So basically Dean to Calvert-Lewin. It's that highway is on toll free this game week, I think.
And they play Newcastle, Leeds.
Newcastle.
So where is it? Everton, Newcastle, Leeds, Man U, Fulham, Liverpool. There's 3 very, very nice fixtures in there, and even Liverpool for a header. You'd never back against Everton scoring in the Merseyside derby, would you? You'd never back.
Exactly.
So yeah, very interesting. So we'll just quickly move through onto the other slides, because I think we've got a couple. We want to look at James Justin a little bit, and this is again another a little bit of an epiphany, really, because another one who I'm quite frankly, the story is, guys, is I sold James Justin in game week 5, and I've regretted it ever since. Because I thought Pereira was coming back, and all I do now is he is now reaching the levels of Callum Wilson and Richarlison for me, with respect to a level of hatred that I have for FPL players on the back of not owning them, and I wish I did, but I never want Callum Wilson and Richarlison, let's be honest, but that's a different thing. But Pereira is not; he's now nearly there, and things, and of course it's 3 for 2 now. With Castagna, Pereira possibly, and Justin. But Gabe, very quickly, just mindful of trying to keep moving on the time. You noticed something on Justin's heat map as well, I think is worth sharing with everybody.
Yeah, so Justin, when Justin plays on the right, it seems that he's able to. You see that when he plays on the right, that's the heat map there. On the left of the last 6 game weeks or the last 6 matches. He's right-footed, so he's able to kind of get around the opposing defenders, and he hugs that touchline, right? And so because he's able to do that, he gets a little bit further forward when he's playing on the right. When he's playing on the left, you see the 3 orange patches in the attacking half. There goes one on the line, then the second one on the line, and the third one inside. That cut inside is cutting James Justin's runs short. Sure, he still gets past the defense. You see the green just beyond that, but not like when he plays on the right-hand side. So I'm afraid when he plays on the left, the fact that he's right-footed and he has to kind of cut into pressure is stopping his runs. Maybe he hasn't developed enough to maybe learn how to get inside and then move beyond after cutting inside. Or maybe it's just the way the team plays. I haven't looked into that part of it too much. But James Justin's move to the left-hand side, I think, limits his upside.
Okay. And also, whilst we're just on these players, I want to look at Luke Shaw as well. And I think, again, Gabe, I'll come to you first and then just throw it open generally just to finish off this section. So Luke Shaw again, another interesting option and another interesting observation, which I'd like you to share with the guys.
Yeah, well, luckily I came across this observation last night as us three were chatting in our group chat, and this is something that isn't included in the matchups thread. So those of you that are here live get a brand spanking new piece of information here. If we look at Shaw, look how far forward he is. Shaw is having kind of the season of his life. It's a shame that Bruno's off corners, but Shaw has them now. But we see really most of his activities in the attacking half. But what's really interesting to me is that Shaw is a left back that doesn't get back to the box. A left defender that doesn't get back to the box is extremely rare. So there has to be a reason for it. So I pulled up Maguire's heat map, which I hadn't done before, and look out for a left center back. He's playing extremely wide, which means he's covering for Shaw, which means I think Ola has realized that Luke Shaw is worst when he's defending near his own box. And so he wants to keep Shaw away from the box, and he's best when he's able to have the ball in some space along the flank and attack. He's a good crosser of the ball sometimes. So I think really kudos to Ole Gunnar Solskjaer here for kind of adapting his team, making slight tactical changes to play to his players' strengths. And Maguire is great at covering for Shaw, and you'll see there will be breakdowns. This is why you talk to United fans, and a lot of them will tell me, do not buy United defensive assets. And I think this is why. This is their unsteadiness, because it's a little bit unorthodox, but it works well enough. I think it's working for them well enough, and I think that makes Shaw a really great option as long as he can keep Telles back. So now the downside to Shaw is that there's potential rotation. He has been injury prone, so Ole may want to, save him, take care of him. But the setup and the situation is really great for that left-sided back.
I suppose there's always the argument that there's going to be more rotation with the full-backs and wing-backs anyway, just the sheer amount of ground they cover, right? They're probably much more likely to be rotated than a centre-half, so that's one thing anyway. I mean, look, just to finish this section off, and I'll come to you first, Surya. If I gave you 4 players and I asked you to put them in order of how you would, to own them, Cancelo, Justin, Shaw, and Chilwell, what would your order be?
Yeah, so it's Cancelo first. No questions there. So Cancelo, Chilwell, Justin, and Shaw. Shaw, for the fact is that I've been a United fan for a long time, and he does get into good positions near the opposition box, but then he slightly takes a bit more of time to make that decision making, that crucial key pass that slightly misses in this game, that has been missing for a very, very long time. I've been a very patient United fan, hoping that he'll be amongst the likes of Robertson, likes of Star in terms of attacking return, and that never seems to be happening. He's just got 2 Premier League goals, if I'm not wrong, and yeah, his attacking returns never seem to come. He's been picking up, his crossing been picking up, but then he takes slightly a fraction of a second more to make that decision making pass or decision making cross, which again crowds the box, and boom, your chance becomes half a chance, and that's it. It's gone forever. And this is one key observation. And the second thing for the fact is that Telles is also there. And if Telles is even more an awful defender when you compare to Shaw. So if Telles starts, it's more of Maguire being the left back rather than being a left centre back. So maybe in terms of teams that are very poor attacking wise, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer can go with Telles, and that could be rotation as well. And I don't see it's worthy enough to risk it on a United fullback who's not amongst the attacking returns and also has a chance of being rotated. So it doesn't bode me well, considering the fact this is coming from a United fan as well. Yeah, that's all.
So your order then, Cancelo?
Yeah, Cancelo, then Chilwell, then Justin, then Shaw. That would be my order. Yeah.
Shaw's bottom. Okay. I mean, obviously, Gabe, you've got Dean you want to put in there as well. I mean, look, from my perspective, I also would put Cancelo at the top. I think I would look for fixture difficulty and I would put Shaw in. I just cannot see them be as bad as they were against Sheffield United again. And then I think Chilwell and then Justin. I as much as I would love to bring Justin in because he's cheaper, I just think that is that a transfer that is there a rotation going to start coming there, and maybe a little bit with Chilwell as well. So maybe Shaw, perhaps a slightly cheap, a reasonable price might be the better option actually to go along with Cancelo. And to be honest, because none of them really rock me boat completely, I might just go for John Stones and be done with it. So there's the other option, of course, because I think what we've done there is it's been really good because we've ignored the likes of TAA and Robertson because we know that at the end of the day, if they start, we'll bring in one of them in at least. I still own one anyway. But for me, what I like to see here is that we're testing the boundaries here. We're saying, look, what could go wrong with these assets? Because everyone looks at them through rose-tinted specs and thinks, this is nailed, But Cancelo's even a risk for rotation from time to time, isn't he? They all are. They've all got some negative, and I think that's why we just have to perhaps temper our, shall we say, enthusiasm a little bit for it. Gabe, I mean, if you were putting it into order just to finish this section, what would you do?
I would do Cancelo first, easy. Dean second, easy. Sorry to slip him in there. It was Cancelo, Dean, Chilwell, Shaw, and Justin. I'd probably put them equal. It's tough. The rewards are kind of equal. Justin is more assured starts. Although Virgil van Dijk is in the chat here, and he mentioned that Telles did have a shocker last game. So I think that's a good point. I think Shaw is relatively nailed, but that uncertainty and then the doubts that Surya kind of mentioned kind of have me between Shaw and Justin. I don't know. I'd probably go Mitchell and invest the money somewhere else, but I put them on equal footing.
Yeah, I was going to say you can't forget. I've noticed been a couple of people commenting about Crystal Palace's fixtures. We can never forget the fact that there's a very, very cheap option as well. Let's not get ourselves all thrown into this. Never forget the fact that Mitchell sat there at 3.9 million, who could be a very nice enabler for something else as well. So yeah, that's great stuff, guys. I really enjoyed that. I'm sure everybody found it very useful. So that's that bit finished now. So now let's go to the Little Prince pick, Gabe. Last pick is Thomas Soucek.
That was cheating a little bit.
I think the reason is we had a bit of a problem. We couldn't find any royalty, could we? We were really struggling to find a bit of royalty last week, but I think you might have got one this week. So
when you can't find royalty, you settle for potato salad. So and then it works out. You're happy with that. So yeah, we do have some royalty this week. This is a guy that has 2 assists in the last 2 games. Really finding his target man. And my Little Prince pick of the week for this week is Matty Target from Aston Villa playing against Southampton. Southampton that concede, I think, the 4th most chances from their right side and the fewest chances from their left side. So just that disparity really, I think, speaks volumes for a player like Matty Target. The other reason I like Matt Target is because I think, so this is still a theory, a working theory. But my theory is that when Grealish plays on that left wing, that he draws so much attention from opposing defenders that gives Matt Target a lot more time on the ball, time to look up and find and really get the timing right of his passes to Ollie Watkins in kind of leading that front line. So I think Grealish is creating that time for them is having a positive effect, and I think the matchup is just right for Grealish and for Target on that left flank. So Target for an assist at least.
Yeah, I really like Grealish this week as well. I've been chomping at the bit with respect to Grealish, and he's an outside. I have thought of captaining Grealish. I do own Grealish. I have thought of captaining this week, actually, for that reason. I've also spotted the stats and another thing. Well, we're coming on to the captaincy now anyway. So that's the end of the normal matchup show, guys. But now what we've got to do, because these game weeks come thick and fast, and we're going to have to talk about when we're coming on again next, boys, in a few minutes at the end of this, because I think we've got about 2 days and we go again. And then another 2 days and we go again these weeks. It's just so crazy. So anyway, let's keep moving. So how did obviously I did the captain show myself I think I did it on recording on Thursday last week. And how did we do? Well, the community picked Bruno. Well, we know they did. Virtually everybody picked Bruno. 2.7 million picked Bruno. And quite frankly, 2.7 million people blanked, and 2.7 million people didn't care less, because everybody backed. Everybody went for it. It's the first time I think I've captained somebody and not cared less about the result, quite frankly.
2.7 million people and one cat.
Yeah, and a cat as well. Yeah, that's another thing. The cat also picked him. And he was last seen being chased around the condo by Mrs. Mariner, who was going to skin him alive. Because she has to back him. She has to put her captain on whoever the cat picks. That's the law in this house anyway. The metric picks Sterling. Excellent. That is what the metric's there for. It saw the numbers. It saw the fixture. Quite frankly, I said at the time that matchup was one of the best matchups I've seen this year. And we were right. And it was right. And it got him. Now, was I a little bit concerned that Sterling was going to blank? Yes, I was. And it took a while, even then, I was thinking, oh, crikey, is it thinking that he's the only real option? Because to be quite honest, there wasn't many other options, because it doesn't I've now started to filter out players who have been rotated more than 33%. I can't, if people are spending more than 60 minutes on the bench, something like that, we just can't be having them. We just can't be going there. And of course, Bruno, it did see the fact that the fixture was tougher, but it also saw his form, and that's why ultimately that's why it saw him in second place. And the other thing is the differential. Well, the differential, I went for Cancelo, and of course nailed it. So 2 out of 4. So that's not a bad start, really, for this part of the show. And we'll keep doing this, because I think it's always good to review as to whether we made the right choice or not, because hindsight's a wonderful thing. But I always say, and I'm just going to say this now, and this is a general statement to FPL, and Gabe, you know what I'm going to say here. People need not beat themselves up about FPL. At the end of the day, it's a game. If you think you've made the right choices and they blank, or they don't do any good, or they don't get picked, or whatever happens, or they break down in warm-up, you can't do anything about it. Look at your decision and look at yourself in hindsight and go, was I right to triple captain Mane? Yes, I was last year. I ended up with 3 points. Well, I think the moral of the story is don't beat yourself up. And I think, I do see some quite almost distressed comments from time to time. And, it really bothers me. So I just want to say that. And, we've got to just use this, and we've got to use the stats in a certain way. And we don't completely agree with the stats. We use the stats, we use the eye test, we use a gut. And I'll tell you what we also use is a hell of a lot of luck. So this is the fun bit. So let's keep moving. And this is the Mariner against the metric. And it was pretty much bang on the same as last week. But now the metric has actually moved into the lead with respect to the success rate. There's a slight typo on there, but the metric's now at 75% hit rate, 15.4 points average, projected 585. Again, not too shabby. Myself now, I've blanked. So I've ended up with a slightly lower hit rates, but still a higher average at 16.6. And I'm still projected to be up around 632 points. So we're going the right way. but it's nice to see again that the metric was right. So moving on, and the Catpick. So he got it horribly wrong last week, but I suppose we all did. And as you know, I always put a poll out to see who we fancy in captaining, and it's a little bit difficult sometimes because I always get loads of questions. Why didn't you include Gundogan? Why didn't you include Cancelo? Why didn't you include Harvey Barnes? Well, because they're not premiums. And my rule is I only put premiums into the captaincy metric. So the rule I made at the start of the season, and it goes right the way back to Joshua Bulls, the winner of FPL last year, the video that he did on YouTube, the mathematician from Oxford University, and he said captain premiums. He said fixtures over form. And again, I always say if you've got half an hour, grab a coffee and watch that. It's brilliant. I love it. What did the poll this week say? Well, it said Sterling again. So now people are starting to see the options for Sterling. Perhaps that's because Gundogan's not there. I don't know.
They're catching up with the metric.
Maybe they are. Salah. Now, is that, we could have put Mane there again, but anyway, Salah's higher up on the metric, so I've put Salah up there still. Son and Grealish. So Sterling, Salah and Son. So I've given the Cat 3 options this week. So here we go. Let's have a look.
You better not go left again. I'm telling you.
Mrs. Marriner's good at this, isn't she?
It's just awesome.
And he didn't go left.
Didn't go left. Went middle. All right.
And he's gone with Son.
Oh. Great cat.
Dear God. So there we go. So he's gone with Son. I did warn people on Twitter you might not agree with it. But, I mean, realistically, guys, is Son that bad a pick this week? I can't quite work out whether Son's... I've seen stats which say Son's going to go up in with respect to statistics, and I've also got my gut feeling which tells me that Son without Salah is like Son with 1.5 legs. Son without Kane, I should say, is like Son with 1.5 legs instead of 2, because he's been so reliant on Kane with respect to getting those chances. Have you got any views on those?
What do you think, Surya, about that?
Yeah, I think Son has played a lot without Kane, to be honest, because Kane has been awfully injured a lot over the last couple of seasons, and I don't see Kane missing out to be a huge problem. I know for the fact that Kane and Son have been combining very well this particular season, but then even during the same period last season, Kane was out for a very long time, and Son was doing good. Son was doing great until he fractured his arm and he was ruled out as well. So I don't see that's that much of an impact, and there is a thing going on that he might be on penalties as well. So that's an added thing. So I don't see that's a big impact of Kane missing out. So I think Son should continue to deliver his FPL goods this week as well.
Yeah. I have to say I was going to bring one or the other in, and I am now contemplating not bringing either of them, not bringing either Spurs asset in now. So that's again something which I think is going to go to the wire. But yeah, just moving on then, we'll go to the captain metric itself now and see what that has to say. And that has Sterling top again. And that again comes down to the fact that the matchup, it is the best matchup. It's not as good as last week, the matchup, by any way, shape or form. But it is still the best matchup out of the premiums who were available. If we look at Sheffield United, last 6, expected goals conceded 1.24 in 90. Big chances 1.57. That's 9th. So they're more a middling sort of team with respect to statistics. And obviously Manchester City sit at the top, best XG 2.43 in every 90, big chances 3.57, 11.2 shots in the box in 90. Obviously Sterling's now starting to get his returns, 2 goals, 1 assist in the last 3. And I think people are ahead of the curve if they captain him, quite frankly, still, because he's still quite lowly owned. I think about 10% ownership now, so which is quite crazy, really, for a potential asset like Sterling. And then if we looked at the second shot, an interesting of it's the first time Grealish has made it right up there this year. I looked back, I thought, have I seen Grealish? I think Grealish has been 3rd or 4th a couple of times now. He probably would have been further down, bearing in mind that obviously we're missing a couple of big hitters. But anyway, so he's sitting there anyway. And as we mentioned, and as Gabe mentioned, Southampton, if you look at the last 6 game weeks, they're, sort of like 6th or 7th worst with respect to expected goals conceded and big chances. But if we look at the last 3 game weeks, they're getting considerably worse. 3rd worst for big chances, 3 in every 90. 3rd worst for shots in boxes, in the box, 10.6 in every 90. So, they have turned, and, it might be injuries and whatever, but Southampton are certainly not the force that they were. And I just think, to be honest with you, when you look at Villa's stats, I think there's quite a compelling argument, as you mentioned earlier, Gabe, with the Little Prince, that you could actually have some decent returns from Villa assets this week, given that Villa in the last 3 game weeks are 5th best for XG, 5th best for big chances, 4th best for shots in box. Again, so from my perspective, I can see Villa being an option. I'll just quickly run through the other ones. The fixture difficulties destroyed Bruno this week, because obviously he's still got the returns, although they're starting to come off a little bit. The fixture difficulties pulled Son down. And I think even with Mane returning, it'll take a while before the metric starts to catch up on him. I think you'll need to see another return or 2 before you start seeing Mane up there with a good fixture. You never know, you might see a little bit the good better fixture. I think the West Ham next week, isn't it? No, is it? No, West Ham this week. Who are they playing next week?
Villa?
Brighton? I don't think it's Brighton.
Just a second.
It might be Brighton, but I think they've got an easier fixture next week, from memory.
Villa play West Ham next week.
Yeah, and Mane, Liverpool. I think I think it might be Brighton off the top of my head.
Brighton next week.
I thought it was. I mean, guys, obviously that's the metric, and it goes for premiums. But Gabe, come on, let's go to what we said at the outset. You're going to there's about 10 questions on Gundogan for captaincy, and I'll give the people the shout outs in a few minutes. But give us your view. What do you think?
So regarding Gundogan specifically, I think Gundogan could be priced right now. It could be priced 9.5, and if he were priced 9.5, then he would be he would have most popularity from last week, and it would just, everybody would be doing Gundogan. And the only reason we're asking the question is because of his price. So I think we got to try to kind of combat pricing bias here and realize if we were pricing these players today, Gundogan would be a premium pick. So I think he's a great captain shout.
Yeah, and to be honest, and if I'm honest with you, what I should really do and what I should have really done, I haven't had time, is I should have plugged Gundogan's numbers in and just see where he actually popped out. And I think what I'll do is I'll do it next week. I think what I'll do for next week's show, I think I'll just plug Gundogan in and see where he pops out. Because clearly, you see, the metric works in a way that it doesn't take those players into consideration. I had to force Grealish in, quite frankly, and Calvert-Lewin because of the pricing of them, because they were too low, but I couldn't leave them out. And I think now we're getting to a point where we can't really leave Gundogan out either. So yeah, very, very interesting point. And so that's the metric. And then we're just going to go on to the differential. And this is, again, where we're going to go into a bit of a debate. And it's a bit of a, we're going back over old ground a little bit. But differentially, right, what are we going to do this week? Well, there's two, I think, who are particularly good shouts for captain differentials. And that is Barnes and Maddison. Now, if you looked at this is courtesy Fantasy Football Hub. If you looked at the diagram in the middle, you can see that Barnes outperforms Maddison on virtually every statistic. That's at the last few games of the last 5 or 6 games or something like that. Yeah, it's there. So if you look at that, you can see that Barnes is doing really well with respect to the numbers, and I've also put the red boxes around who wins and things and wins out. And interestingly enough, despite what we've said, what I wanted to bring to the table here is just how far Harvey Barnes has improved with respect to comparing 1 to 18 and 19 to 20. Expected points 4.38 to 7 for 90 minutes. XG 0.32 to 0.44. XA double to 0.2. XI that's XG plus XA 0.4 to 0.64. For greater than 50% improvement. Big chances 0.38 to 0.67. 75% improvement. Key passes 0.46 to 3. He's gone from 0.46 key passes to 3 key passes per 90 minutes. And penalty box touches has gone from 4.83 to 5.67. So for me, everything, and me, Gabe, I'm more of a numbers man than you. And I know you're right in many senses that, is Barnes wasteful? But I looked at the expected points and actual points. And he's actually scoring more points than he's expected to score at the moment. So I don't know whether that means that he's doing okay. But from my perspective, I think my pick would be Barnes. Gabe, you're going to go the other way. I'm almost certain.
I have to go the other way. I have to take a different lens here. Well, one thing I have to give Barnes credit. What strikes me, there are two things that strike me about Barnes. One is 4 out of 7 shots on target. 7 shots, 4 on target. The first 6 game weeks or first 4 game weeks of the season, he had like 9 shots a game and 2 on target. So that is dramatically improved. And his key passes, that was really, really surprising, which tells me he's involved in more areas than just running in behind and then shanking a shot, right? But I still think Maddison is the more experienced player. He's without Vardy. He's more of a leader of this team. Everything kind of runs through Maddison. He's a bit of a general there, and just everyone looking to Maddison and Maddison, his involvement kind of closer to the box. Yeah, it's not shown in the numbers yet, but it is shown in the eye test and situation. So this is a classic case of kind of numbers versus eye test, and it's just going to be what kind of manager are you, and what resonates more strongly within you. And obviously, Mariner, you know we've talked about this many times. We are so far polar opposite that we're almost the same, and when it's like that full circle, right? So it's just there are the numbers say Barnes, the eye test and situation say Maddison. The decision just really speaks to the manager.
Very good. Yeah, I think you're right. Sorry, very quickly, 30 seconds on this. What would be your perspective here? I think you might have said Barnes earlier on, didn't you?
Yes. So I'll be sticking on the Barnes for the very same reason. He's improving, and I think he gets onto the bigger chances. So I think I'll stick to Barnes. So if it's one of them, it should be Barnes for me. Yeah.
Okay. All right, cool. So just to summarise then, to finish this section, so community poll, Sterling, metric, Sterling, Catpick, Son, differential, Barnes, but I'll also put we'll have Maddison in there as well, Gabe, seeing as there will be doubling up on this program again for next week, so we'll be able to abuse each other on who was right and who was wrong, or maybe we're both going to be right. But it's interesting enough. Ankit Deb there says Maddison is on set pieces, so there's another point as well. And you saw, I think, from the heat map that you see the big blob over the corner, over the corner flag, right? So that's that. So we've just got time for some questions, and we've gone on a little bit long, but anyway, it's because it's been such an interesting show for me. So I'm just going to go through a couple of questions that I got on Twitter. And guys, would you mind just having a look down the chats and see if you see any questions which would be worthwhile bringing up? Whilst I just go down these ones first, just to save some time. So I'm going to come to you first, Surya. Do you think it's worth a 4-point hit to take Martial and Lacazette out? This is for Kane and Watkins. That's a stupid question, really, isn't it now? So that'd be someone, let's say DCL and Watkins. Let's change that one. That's from Ravi Parmar. That's at Parmar 1993. So would you take Martial and Lacazette out for a hit? And then let's say for who?
For whom is the bigger question, because Martial definitely has to go out. Because he's been very awful of late. But surprisingly, Lacazette has got numbers. He has the highest big chance in the last 4 game weeks, and he tops the non-penalty XG as well. But then I do feel the Arsenal United game would be a low-scoring one, just like the last time around. So I think both have to go. DCL is a very good option, and this guy DCL seems a very good option. And if Antonio is not there, then obviously Antonio would be my 2 options for if they have to do it. Yeah.
Fine. And I've got a question here from at KrakenJack2. I think it's Stahlhacker. Not sure I can quite pronounce that very well, but there we go. I'm from Grimsby after all. Fabinho out for the West Ham match. Matip has scans today. Potentially Phillips and Henderson centre-back pairing. Start Soucek or bench him? I think we know the answer to that one. Gabe?
I mean, it's going to depend on your team. This week is not an obvious start for Soucek, but with those injuries, I think he's definitely startable. So it's just going to depend on the other options. But he can be started with some confidence this week.
Yeah. So okay. So I'm just going to try and get some questions, and I'm struggling to get up to the top of the questions.
I have some from the chat. If
fire away. What have you got?
Okay, we have Rakesh asking Ongisa to Gundogan or Barnes.
Ongisa to Gundogan or Barnes?
Yes, which one?
Well, Gundogan.
Has to be Gundogan, right? Next one, we can do a rapid fire here. Next one. I hope I'll pronounce this one correctly. And Ensalados.
Right.
Ensalada in Spanish. Salad,
but Mexican food.
Enchiladas. Bamford to DCL to Antonio or DCL?
Oh, Bamford. Well, look. First thing I would say is I've also thought about taking Bamford out, and I don't know whether I'm just going to give him another week or 2. But if I had to take him out, dear me, I probably would give it a crack at DCL at this moment over Antonio for those 2 fixtures. I think I'd have a gamble. That would be me.
What about you, Surya?
Yeah, I would do DCL as well, just for the fact that Everton are back full strength, just like the beginning of the season. So I would do DCL. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think Antonio's a fantastic pick, and Antonio's a sort of player who can stay there. But I think in short term, I think the fixtures are slightly better for DCL, and you could maybe go across to Antonio in a few weeks' time, perhaps.
Yeah.
And the fixtures do turn the West Ham again.
I'm going to take the opposite point of view here. I think Antonio, with the injured center backs at Liverpool, Antonio's stats are off the charts. The eye test back up those stats. And DCL, we're not sure. He's a great matchup, great situation, But I think DCL, you can wait until his stats and performances catch up. Antonio, get in now because he's playing well now. That's my view.
I mean, I think it's a tough question. It's one of those ones where, I mean, I actually own Antonio anyway, and I'm looking at bringing DCL in. But I mean, realistically, I think what we've been saying in I think the general perspective of this show, and I think the general perspective of what I've seen on Twitter in the last few days, is there's very few options actually for strikers at this moment in time.
Yeah.
And I think that's the one of the most difficult sort of things, really. I'm just looking to see if there's any other questions.
I can hit a couple more here. I have highlighted just rapid fire. Rakesh again, -4. Ogbonna to Dean for -4. Ogbonna to Dean for -4. Yay or nay?
Yeah. You agree?
Surya?
Yeah, I agree. Just because of the fact the Pickford won't be starting, so I'll agree. Yeah.
Yeah.
Plus six.
So I think it's a tentative yes. I think from the three of us, it's yes, but it's kind of hard to take a hit like that when you're moving Ogbonna. Next one, Axtralicious 1. I'm planning Kane out, DCL in. Should I take a -4 or -8 for Bamford out, Watkins in, or Dallas out, Dean Chilwell in?
Wait, I think I lost track. I'll find a question.
So Kane DCL is in. So should anyone hit Bamford out or Dallas out to upgrade to Watkins or Dean Chilwell? Would you take those hits?
I've contemplated hitting a defender out this week, I have to say.
I am heading a defender out this week.
Yeah, and to be honest, are we expecting Leeds to keep many clean sheets? And at the moment, they seem to have dried up a bit with respect to attacking returns, whereas obviously Dallas was giving you those attacking returns, wasn't he, for some time?
I would hit Dallas out for Dean and keep Bamford one more week.
Yeah, yes, I think so. Yeah, I think that's because Bamford, you never know, do you? They're still creating chances. If you looked at the likes of Harrison and Rafinha, they're still pretty busy, aren't they? And he's just got to get onto the end of one. And it's just the problem is with Bamford. Are his numbers just now normalising finally? Because he's been so off the scale really for the whole season so far. So that's that one. Right, I'm just looking at a couple more then. Do you think it's worth it? Oh, here's one. What do you reckon, guys? For FPL Goldfellas, do you think it's worth a hit to bring in Dean or DCL for Robbo Wood? Dean and DCL for Robbo and Wood.
DCL to Wood DCL for Wood seems a good option, but I don't see why Dean for Robbo. To be honest, I'm lost there a bit.
Yeah,
I agree.
I don't think I would take Robbo out at this moment in time.
Yeah.
And especially they've got and they are playing Brighton next week, as we've said. So I know the thing is, though, it's like anything. How much longer are we going to leave this before we start losing patience with them and with the injuries that they've got? As we say, it'd be interesting to see what happens this week. Because if they concede this week, then I think there could be a bit of a fire sale going on even with Robbo, especially if he keeps blanking. Okay. I think we've probably covered all. There's maybe a few more questions, but I think we'll knock it on the head. We've just gone over an hour and a half, so I'm trying not to, completely burn us out. We've got another show in about 3 days' time, boy.
I like the questions are good though. Just hanging out.
Oh, they are fabulous, and I mean, and the other thing is that we will still be on Twitter to be able to answer it. If we've missed any, just reach out to us on Twitter because you'll be able to catch us there. And so that's great. So guys, thanks a lot as always. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on finally, Surya.
Yeah. Cheers, man. Fun catching up with Gabriel as well after.
Absolutely. And Lens, as always, absolute pleasure.
Pleasure's all mine, Surya. This was great. Thanks
Great,
again for the website and everything you do for the community. Mariner as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, guys. Thank you, and we'll speak in a minute. Just hang on the line. I'll speak in a minute.
Thanks to everyone joining us on the chat as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Just take this off the screen. So I can't find the thing to take it off the screen. So there we go. It's all going wrong. The last thing is getting late at night. So here we go. I can take it off now. There we go. So that's that, everybody. The software's going wrong. It's gone midnight in Singapore. I'm knackered. I'm going to bed. Thank you very much. Thanks very much.
It still stays live. It still stays live. Is it off?
What's
it still
that?
stays live. Yeah, it still stays live. Can you check on that?
Yeah, no, we're still live. I'm still finishing off. Hang on.
Careful.
Oh dear. Guys, it's all right. Everything's going wrong. It's all good fun. I hope you enjoyed it again, as always.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
If you do, please hit that like. Please hit the subscribe button. Hit the bell for the reminders. You can find me on Twitter at FPL Mariner. You can find me on Instagram as well, FPL Mariner. You can find Gabe at FPLlens. You can find Surya all about FPL, and also his website, which is www.allaboutfpl.com. Is that right, Nate? I think it is. And apart from that, till the next time, may your arrows be green, and may you have all the success in the world. Stay safe. Thank you. Bye-bye.